Okay. Thank you so much for coming to this interview. I really appreciate you taking the time. So, for everyone's sake, for my sake, could you introduce yourself a little bit? What do you do? Who are you? What's your background, and what do you hope to do?
Yeah, of course, I'm happy to. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. Someone is passing by. Just a second. I don't know if you're hearing noises, but yeah, okay. So I'm Ilke. I studied law at Ankara University, and after that, I started working as a lawyer in a tech law firm in Istanbul. I get to work with big tech companies like Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, all of them, you name it, around the world. And then I won the Fulbright Scholarship, and I was the only one that has been chosen in my time
Mhm.
this year. And I came to US to do my master's degree. I got admitted to lots of Ivy schools like Columbia, Cornell, NYU, like Stanford, Berkeley, and I chose specifically Berkeley because I wanted to practice tech law and I wanted to specialize in AI, and that's
Mhm.
what I did. So now I'm here. And for my law interest, I always been drawn to systems, like how they work, how they affect people's lives, and how they can be improved. I think Turkish culture also affected that because
Mhm.
growing up in a culture where law and politics are deeply intertwined, I saw legal education as a powerful tool
Mhm.
to not only understand the rules, but also to challenge them when necessary.
Mhm.
And I see the law, I think law has literally the power that can change everything. I didn't just want to understand the law, but I wanted to use it to create change. I think that's what drew me in.
Wow. So let just wanted to take one step back and ask, I mean, in technology, it's very cross-border, but you could have
Mhm.
at any point in your journey, I guess, prior to this year, planted your feet and said, you know what, I'll do tech law in Turkey. I'll be the best tech lawyer in Turkey that I can possibly be. But you chose to go abroad. So what made you choose to, take your studies elsewhere? What made you cross that border?
So after working in Turkey and especially after working with all these international companies, I mean, I really like what I did in Turkey because I was dealing with like AI governance, privacy, legal tech, like all the cool stuff from what I saw. But I also noticed that like all the things I'm dealing with, they're actually happening in the US. Like all
Mhm.
these companies are US based. So
Mhm.
I feel like when I practice in Turkey, I feel like I'm just like translating some stuff and like interpreting some stuff. Not, I didn't feel like I'm just learning from the source.
Mhm.
So my biggest reason to choose yes was this actually, being closer to this community, being closer to this like technology ecosystem and like understand how these tech companies operates firsthand.
Mhm. Okay, so I mean, now you're closer to the source. You're about as close as you can get. So
Yes.
when you've come this close, when you're at the heart of it, and you're not only, it's closer, but you're at a different system entirely as well. What are some of the things that have stood out to you? I mean, how are the systems different? How are the people different? How's the practice different? Do you sense that there's some differences?
Yes, there are like a lot of differences.
Hmm.
First, I think the classroom culture, because in Turkey, professors do most of the talking. They're actually like lecturing you. But
Hmm.
here, the students are expected to lead the discussions and challenge the ideas.
Hmm.
Also, the idea of networking being such a big part of your legal career was so new to me because back home, your GPA often speaks louder than your LinkedIn. But here, networking is like a crucial part in your legal career journey, and like you get exposed to it from day one.
Hmm.
And I think the classroom culture was also super different because here they're using the Socratic method, which makes you like question everything and like asking questions. They're not definite answers, but like they assess your legal analysis skills based on the questions that you ask. So that was like really different from my experience in Turkey. And also there is this legal writing format. They call it IREC or CREAC. These concepts were foreign to me at first because they're like common law writing systems, basically. But now I use them all the time.
And how was the transition to those writing systems? Were you used to writing in a certain way or to writing legal ideas at all, or was this, an entirely new thing that you had to learn?
So I actually did some mock trials back in Turkey when I was a
Mhm.
student. So I'm kind of familiar with those systems because we were also searching like how other countries dealing with this legal writing issues. So
Mhm.
I was kind of familiar with those, but in my practice as a lawyer, I didn't use those to be honest. I
Mhm.
drafted lots of memorandums, but like I didn't use this style. But here, this is one of the things that I really like in the US legal education. If they expect you to do something, they teach it first, and you can just like trust the system. For this legal
Mhm.
writing system, there is like a specifically designed class called Legal Research and Writing, which teaches you everything you need to know to draft these legal memos. So I wasn't afraid. At first, I was like, what is IREC? What is CREAC? But like they actually teach you class by class and
Mhm.
they prepare you to this journey. And at the end of this class, I won the best legal memo.
Oh, wow.
So the best legal memo award.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow.
So I think they're really if they expect from if they expect something from you, they definitely give you the necessary education.
Mhm. Okay, so you've started writing in this new system. You started writing in a new style entirely. Do you find any crossover between the old systems, the old ideas, the old voice of you that you were used to, and the ones that you've evolved now over the past few months?
I mean, I think I changed a lot
Mhm.
because I had this one class. You're basically pretending like you're a real lawyer practicing in the
Mhm.
US, and we're doing like mock trials between the class. And at first, I was in the very Turkish legal mindset. I was just giving detailed citations, like I was using legalese, and like I was trying to cite the law. Like most of my arguments were like rule based. And the biggest feedback I got was like, but what's the story behind it? Like, just let's avoid the legalist, just be clear, get to the point, and tell us the story behind it. Because I think the differences of the legal system, because in Turkey we have this civil law system which depends on the rules, but here it depends on the facts and the case of the precedents. So the facts are really important. The story behind it is really important. And I think that was like a challenge and like a really different thing for me, but I think I managed to adapt. So I wouldn't say the systems were like too similar. Of course, it helped me because I know as an international lawyer, I know like how to read between the lines because I did it before. But here I also had to adjust my understanding as well.
So on that, I'm curious about two things. First of all, you have this much more, I guess, academic, legalese-based, approach to a case because of that civil law background, and then
Yeah.
you also have your own experience in practicing. Do you find those to be helpful when you've come into this completely different system? I mean, now it's not as rules based, it's telling a story, it's telling that story clearly and arguing why your perspective might
Mhm.
align better with the previous cases that have existed. So, do you find this, I mean, different experience, but experience nonetheless to be helpful in carrying forward in a new context?
I think it's really helpful because like it really helps you see the things in different ways.
Mhm.
Because I think if I be taught in just this US legal system, um, the my understanding will be really limited since
Mhm.
I've been exposed to like different legal system, different clients, different cultures, different like social values and everything. I think it really helps me understand the issues here better.
Mhm. Interesting. And when you get beyond the cases, when you get to the sort of professional relationships, the ones with other lawyers, the one with other students, the ones with professors or with clients, do you feel as though, you've already practiced as well, do you feel as though there's different expectations of how you're supposed to conduct those relationships? Or do you find that the experiences that you've had previously, for example, with a relationship with a professor, are the same now as you are in a different learning context?
So different. I think it's because of the hierarchy that deeply ingrained in the Turkish culture, both in the school and both in my law firm. They're like partners, seniors, the people who are your superiors, and like even when you're just like calling them and like saying hi, you have to always say hanım, sis.
Mhm.
So you have to be always formal. But
Mhm.
here, my professors specifically ask me to call their names, like just not saying Mr. or Professor, just calling them with their first names. So that
Mm,
was like a shock for me, and I couldn't get used to it in the beginning.
mm.
But I think it really helps because like you feel like there's no hierarchy between you, and they value you as a colleague here, so you feel much more valued here.
Yeah. And have you felt the need to sort of consciously adapt to that new communication, the hierarchy in terms of does it come more naturally to call a professor by their first name? Or do you find yourself always trying to say, oh, Mr. Joe, Mr. Jim, whatever their last name might be?
Yes, I always call with like Mr. whatever, and then if they correct me, like don't call me that way or like don't use these words, like don't say professor. I just corrected myself because I think it's really I don't know. I'm really used to it. I'm really used to using these words in Turkey. So it was in the beginning it was hard for me to change this behavior, but I
Mhm.
adapted it. Yeah.
Fair enough. So I'm curious, based on what you've said, and I want to get a sense for both. So let's start with the Turkish side. What do you feel as though in your cultural background and in the experience with legal education and practice you've had in Turkey is the sort of expected role and responsibility of a lawyer in society at large? I mean, what are they supposed to do? What is their position?
In Turkey, you mean?
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
Turkey? I think they expect you to like understand the law really well.
Mhm.
And they want, I think, really detailed like memos. They want you to like cite the rules. Basically, they just want like an academic article from
Mhm.
you. And they're like really used to even though they don't read it, because I know that we send our clients like 30 pages memos and we know that they don't read it, but they expect you to do it.
Mhm.
And if you send them just like bullet points in an email, they think that you're not lawyer enough or they think that you're not good enough.
Mhm.
I think the legalese is makes you much more valuable in Turkey because people think that the more you use like complex words or if you overcomplicated things, they think that you're like a good lawyer. Oh, like she understands because she's telling some stuff we don't understand, so she must have known something.
Mhm.
But here, it's really different. They want you to be clear, simple, and direct.
And expanding upon that comparison of clear, simple, and direct, do you think that implicates out to how Americans might see lawyers differently than Turkish people might?
Yes, I think here the people just want answers. They
Mhm.
trust you that you're the expert because they're already asking questions to you. So they don't question your like abilities or anything. They just want answers. So I think they see the lawyers as their business partners, like a their strategic ally, basically. So I think this is the reason this is the reason of the differences.
Mhm. And I wondered, you said strategic ally. Do you
Uh-huh.
think that there's less of a hierarchy in terms of client and lawyer in the US?
Definitely, definitely. And like in their emailing style, they're also like really casual. Like
Mhm.
two friends chatting each other. I mean, in Turkey, if you're reading a lawyer's emails, you know that they're speaking to a lawyer.
Mhm.
Even the hierarchy, you feel the hierarchy even between the client and the lawyer. But here it's much more casual. They're just
Mhm.
like chatting to a friend and like asking some like legal advice, basically.
Mhm. Okay. So now that we sort of have this Turkish perspective and this American perspective, where do you find yourself now landing between those two? What do you see yourself and your role as a legal practitioner going forward? Are you a strategic ally or are you the lawyer that's supposed to prove they're a lawyer in every email?
I think I am more close to the US system right now because I really like um so I had this class when you're just pretending you're working with like startups
Mhm.
and when we're just dealing with like startup issues, they're asking you like two different scenarios, like which one would you choose? And when I was just evaluating the scenarios, I feel like I am innovating with them. Like they're like one of, I feel like I belong to their firm and they're just asking me questions about their firm. I didn't feel like I'm just their legal advisor, but I'm their
Mhm.
business partner. I'm trying to make the company a better place in a legal way. So
Hmm.
I really felt like I'm not an outsider, but I belong to the company and helping them legally. So I
Hmm.
think being a strategic ally and being like a business partner is much more important to me right now.
Hmm. So you say you're closer to the American side, but I think I feel like you intentionally didn't say you were on the American side. So I wonder, do you find that other, previous experience influencing your view at all? Do you think there are cultural values on hierarchy, for example, that go into maybe a little bit of not wanting to say I'm completely American at this point?
I think so because I mm, I mean I studied in Turkey for 4 years and then I worked for 3 years. So these 7 years like doesn't just like go away
Hmm.
suddenly because like I've been raised like this. But
Hmm.
I think all of the education and like all of my legal practice is helping me the way and like it's actually helped me to compare these systems as well because if I didn't have this Turkish culture or like this Turkish legal education experience I wouldn't be able to compare these two systems and like see which one of these is the best.
Hmm.
So it also helps me to compare these two worlds as well.
Hmm. So, I mean, to me, it kind of sounds like a superpower then, of a perspectable superpower that you have these two different cultures, and now you have the ability to leverage both of them. And I,
Exactly.
but I wonder at the same time, do you think it ever lends to challenges coming up for you? I mean, the fact that you're not, for example, from that American culture, from that American undergrad educational system, from that first initial employment, does anything come up in terms of, this posing a challenge for you?
Exactly, because I think it's because of the area that I'm practicing, because people often see law as like an outsider thing or like out of reach thing. It's like people in their ivory towers, they're setting rules, no one understands, no one cares, but it's not actually like that. The society and like our experiences, our history shaping the law actually. So I
Hmm.
think law is like deeply integrated into our real life because it
Hmm.
basically controls everything. So, being in that culture and seeing how legal stuff actually like reacts to the things in the society really helps you understand the law better. So, because I grew up in Turkey, I kind of like when a new regulation comes up in Turkey, I kind of tell the reason why because something bad happened or like some people try to get around the law, the previous law, and they have to issue a new law to overcome that. So you can see the backstory. But
Hmm.
here you don't have this um the cultural knowledge here. Basically,
Hmm.
like I had to ask my professors like, is there any reason that this law has passed or is there any reason like why this judge decides this way in this case? So I often find myself needing to learn more about the background story behind these cases and laws in US because I don't have the cultural knowledge.
Yeah. And how has that experience been? I mean, it sounds like if it's cultural background, then to some of your peers, it might come more naturally, and they might be a little, maybe taken aback that you don't immediately know the answer that they were just immersed in. How do you feel the sort of context for that is when you ask that question? Do you find that it's welcome? Do you find that it's appreciated and answered?
Always welcome because I think it's because of the program here because my program is an LL.M program and it's designed for international people. So in my cohort there were like 275 people and they were from 40 different countries. So these different perspectives are always welcome because I think it also helps them as well. Like they see how other countries are dealing with the same issues and how they come up with solutions. And they're also comparing it to the US legal system, and they also explain it better to us. Because in classroom discussions go like, oh, like I understand the case law here, but in my country, like similar facts lead to this outcome. So in the classroom setting, you're also learning like different like Mexican laws or like German laws.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to learn those perspective as well. And your questions are always welcome because classes here are designed for you to ask questions in the classroom and like discuss everything in the classroom.
So, I mean, of course, every country is going to have their different laws, so they'll have different, with the different facts, you might see different outcomes. One of the things I
Mhm.
wonder is, do you think that your peers from different countries, you and then perhaps your American peers, have different approaches to legal reasoning? Not to the particular laws, like not understanding the laws themselves, but do they start from different points? Do they see the clients or the negotiation or the advocacy or any of these different aspects of legal reasoning, negotiation, anything that might happen differently?
Yes, because I think the difference is still because of the common law system and like law system, the difference
Mhm,
between those. But here, what I observe is that they always evaluate the two sides of the story. So
mhm,
because in Turkey, you just read the facts and like you know that what rule applies to those facts, and then you have this one correct answer, and you
mhm,
give it in the beginning. Like this side probably will win because of this and this and this. But here they just evaluate both sides
mhm,
and they play out with the facts so well, and they're applying two rules to those facts.
mhm,
I think they really apply the law better here because they really play with the facts and see the things from both sides. But in Turkey, you know that oh, the rule applies to this side, so this side will gonna win probably. But here,
mhm,
really see the case, like the rules and how they play out with the specific facts of the case. I think
mhm,
their analysis is different here.
mhm. Just out of curiosity, I mean, you seem to put a value judgment on the two systems and say,
Mhm.
th this one side is better because they play out the facts versus on the other side, you might have a more clear answer. Why do you feel as though the sort of definitive like covering for different cases in the code
Mhm.
creates a worse system than what one way you might have like debate in on the forum and trying to play with the facts in less clear laws? Why do you think you make that value judgment?
I think because the law is like really dealing with like a real human being, a case outcome just like defines a people's future, defines a people's lives. There's like a famous saying in Turkish. I don't know if I can translate it, but if a doctor fails, the patient dies, and that's all. But if a lawyer fails, they turn your life into a living hell. They make you miserable. So it's like a
Mhm,
worse thing than dying. I think legal, like law system is like designed for individuals and it can affect the individual's life like detrimentally. So I think dealing with the specific facts and valuing those facts and discussing those facts in
mhm,
detailed way and in both sides really impacts the people's life. So I think um, the individual facts here are much more valued because the system is basically built on that, just playing with the facts. And so, how you do legal analysis is here like this: you just put the facts in front of you, and then you have this like legal precedents, and you just compare and contrast with the different facts, like the previous facts and your current facts. So it's really deeply intertwined with the like real human's life. So I think that's what I say it's better.
So with as you look at those two systems and as you look forward in your own career, what do you see as your path forward? Do you want to practice in America? Do you want to practice in Turkey? What sort of, with systems, with different systems, maybe even a Mexican system in mind, what do you
Mhm.
sort of see as the 5, 10, 20-year plan?
I want to stay in the US because I feel like I already practice in Turkey. Like I was still like a junior lawyer, but like still
Mhm.
I kind of see how legal system operates in Turkey. And I want to see basically after this education. Um, I really want to see how US people are practicing law here. And I want to specialize in AI and technology law, like I did in Turkey. And I think it's the best place. I mean, the US, the Bay Area is the best place to do it. So I want to stay and see how they do this legal stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, th this is a very, a crucial field, technology, because it's not just, technology doesn't stay in America. Technology sort of impacts the whole world. So
Mhm.
do you sort of want to do a more international style of practice, cross jurisdictional practice, or would you like to stay in Silicon Valley and sort of plant your feet there?
It's actually like even I was in Turkey, like it seems like I am only dealing with like Turkish companies, like even though they're big, you're actually dealing with international companies as well because they expand their business into the EU or into the US. So like you have to have this international mindset. So
Mhm.
I think here it's gonna be similar because these big companies, they're not just gonna stay in the US. They will eventually expand into like EU or like other like Asia. So you have to have this international mindset. And
Mhm.
even though you don't want it, which I really wanted to, because I really like working with like lawyers from other countries. I did it before. We used to work with like lots of big law firms in the EU. I really find it valuable. So I hope to keep my international perspective here as well.
Okay. And with that international perspective, what do you hope to contribute to the field in cross-border, cross-cultural, any of these areas?
Yeah, from the both countries, what I saw was like there are still communities that can't reach the legal services because it's even, I mean, especially in US, it's really, really expensive here to like hire a lawyer and like get a legal advice.
Hmm.
What I was doing back in Turkey was we were just building a legal software tool,
Hmm.
which helps small companies access green funds that's given by World Bank. So usually they would never just compile all the legal documents and like get a legal advice from like a real lawyer. They couldn't afford it basically. But with our software's help, they secured green laws from the World Bank. So I think combining technology and law is really important for especially underserved communities. So I want to keep doing that in here as well because I think in US there are also like really underserved communities as well. I want to help them access to legal services more easily.
And with these goals in mind as well, I mean, it's incredible, the path that you've established, and anyone who listens, any students, any young lawyers might want to follow in your path. What advice would you give to them? What would you say, some problems that you ran into during your journey that could be avoided, or any strategies that you could suggest to someone? If you're let's put this a little simpler. If you were
Yeah.
speaking to yourself like 5 years ago, what advice would you give on the journey that you've taken?
Yeah, I have this Instagram account. It started as like a personal account, but people were so curious about my journey and like all this Fulbright, all this LLM experience, and they started asking me questions, and I started posting some reels and videos about that. So this is
Mhm.
the question I'm getting the most. People always asking me, especially high school people, always asking me like everybody's saying law is like really limited. You cannot go to Europe or US to practice, and everybody says that like it doesn't pay well, it's really hard to practice it. So my biggest advice is like don't listen to these people. If you really practice law, just do it. Just because the legal systems are like detrimentally different in EU, in Turkey, and in US, doesn't mean that you cannot adapt.
Mhm.
I know it might seem like intimidating at first because of all the differences in the
Mhm.
legal systems, but like don't wait until you feel ready. Just do it.
Mhm.
Because like especially in US, they teach you everything you need to know. And if you're just curious enough and if you really like your field, I'm sure a lot of lawyers do,
Mhm.
you can just succeed. So like don't listen to other people's saying about this area.
Mhm. And, for those Turkish students who might go across borders, would you have any strategies as they're pursuing their goals as to how they might, stay competitive with people who might have a leg up over them culturally, linguistically, in any of these areas?
I think talking to people is like really important because in Turkey, the networking and like asking questions or like meeting new people might seem weird in some
Mhm.
environments, but here it's really supported. So
Mhm.
if you like in some environment, if you made it clear that you're really interested in those subjects, or if you make connections with legal professionals in those fields, they will be really helpful. And
Mhm.
even some I mean, even now, I am just cold emailing people and
Mhm.
asking them questions and asking them for coffee chats.
Mhm.
And they're really helpful. I mean, some of them always, like, of course, some of them are like always ghosting people, but like
Mhm.
the majority of the people I reach out, they're really helpful and
Mhm.
they they seem like they're genuinely interested in my questions. So like talk to people, don't fear asking questions and be more open to it because like if you search for opportunities, I'm sure, especially in the US, you will find something.
Mhm. All right. I think with that beautiful piece of advice, as we wrap up, I just want to ask, would there be any story, experience, an insight that stands out to you as a cross-cultural, cross-border lawyer that you'd want to sort of get on record, make sure that people 2,000 years from now will know that story? Would there be anything that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I can share like a happy story, I guess.
Hmm.
Here, I mentioned that I always wanted to do something combines tech and like law. So
Hmm.
here, with a couple of my friends, we co-founded a Legal Innovation and Entrepreneurship Association, and I was the vice president of it. And like we organize so many events that combines with like educators, like professors, CEOs, legal professional students. So one of those events, there was like a professor in that event, and I remember I was reading his articles,
Hmm.
and like back 3 or 4 years ago, I could never imagine that I find myself here and like moderating a panel with him. So I think not just attending or like not just learning passively, I had the moment like, wait, I belong here. I did this. And I was the one who leads the conversation. It was a quiet moment, but the one I will never forget, I think.
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much. If there's anything else that you think is sort of stands out to you, I'd be more than welcome to talk to you. But if there's nothing else, I'm just gonna hit the stop recording button.
Yeah, thank you so much for all of your questions.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to.